Hello and welcome to another episode of Ask a Creative. Today we are talking about a subject that, let's face it, everybody's talking about, AI, and specifically some of the apps and the programs that people are using to generate content. So who did I go to when I had questions about this? Only one person that I could go to, the amazing Robyn Baker from Busy Connecting. Robyn, you are all things technology to me. So I'm always grateful that whenever I have something that I don't understand, that I can reach out to you and you go, yep, let's talk about it.
Yeah. Love AI. And yes, everyone's talking about it. So that gets me excited. Like when everyone talks about grants and they didn't know what grants were.
That's right.
I get excited when I've been using stuff for ages and nobody gets what I'm talking about. And then all of a sudden it's talked about and everybody knows what I'm talking about.
That always happens, doesn't it? We're always playing catch up with you, Robyn. It's always like, oh,
I don't know about
we are because I mean, I think one of the things, especially with Busy Connecting, always having their finger of the pulse on grants and, what's coming up. One of the things that I like about you is that you don't let new tech scare you. Now, from someone who is not very tech savvy, first of all, the idea of this auto-generated content that a computer is creating scares me a bit. So why shouldn't I be scared?
So a lot of reasons you shouldn't be scared. And like I said, I've been using it for ages. And I do love new tech. When new tech comes out, like I used to be that person that lined up at the Apple store to get the new tech.
I can see you.
Now I just let my husband line up for me or someone else. But yeah, I love getting my hands on new tech. And it's like, how do we evolve with this? Because I feel if we don't evolve with it, we get left behind.
Absolutely.
And I agree with that. In business, the last thing you ever want to do is get left behind because your competitors will be out there. So as a writer, I don't think you should be scared of it at all. So I jotted down some notes about things that I thought that it's not perfect on. And I've been playing with it for about 3 years. And before that, I mean, I got excited when people discovered augmented reality in Pokemon Go. So a lot of us had been playing around with augmented reality.
I love Pokemon Go. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden this game, Pokemon Go, came out and everybody went, oh, wow, did you realize it could do this? But you can do it yourself. And if you go and check out my business page, I shared up a platypus in my pool the other day. That's not really in my pool.
I saw that.
It's me playing with augmented reality, and it's getting that much better that it even puts a shadow on the animal. And I've got one that if I get a chance I can share with you. It's an emu, and it actually moves. It walks through the garden and it moves the plants, and the plants weren't moving at the time. It was still as, but that's how good augmented reality is getting. So it's all these things we're evolving with. So AI, the artificial intelligence end of things, comes from the writing end of things. So the things that scare us it scares us because we don't know and we think, is it going to replace us? But it won't. It's technology. So it's like any type of technology, and it's like the old school. You only get out of a computer what you put into a computer. So if you ask it a specific thing, you'll only get out what it thinks you're looking for or you're asking for. So when we do Hey Google and all the rest of it, or Hey Siri, it's not perfect either. So this will be the same thing. This will evolve the same way. So it'll evolve and work to your algorithm. So if you're constantly on there asking it to tell you jokes or provide content in a certain strand, then it will start pumping out in that certain strand. You'll have to reset it if you want to go to a different strand, let's say. There's no truth in it at the moment. So nobody's fact checking or truth checking anything it's putting out.
Okay.
So it's sensitive as well. So when I say sensitive, it overuses phrasing and verbose, and it will rephrase things. So it's like talking to a person. If they don't understand what you're saying, they rephrase what you've asked because it seems like they understand what they're saying, but they really don't. So you'll get a lot of that. That language model that you're training it it will become biased to that language model that you're training it. So if you're training it in slang or another language, it becomes quite biased to that. If you're training it, if you're talking children's books and you're talking in ways you talk to children, it will start phrasing things like that for you, like you're sort of speaking down to a child. So you might want to go from that and then write a historical book, because and vice versa. It'll give you the wrong type of speak. And it still requires loads of feedback. So, and it's like Siri and Google and Alexa, they still require loads and loads of feedback. So whilst you can do it something open-ended, I'll give you an example in a second. You can improve your content. So you can put in something that you're writing, and we all get writer's block. So it's good for when you get writer's block. So you can put in just a parameter of what you're thinking about, and you can go, give me some text that's angry, give me some text that's empathetic, give me some text that's funny, and it'll change that up a little bit. Give me some sales text. That's really good when it gives you sale. It gives you, it takes what you've said in your text and wording, and it puts a sales spin on it. That's quite an interesting one. So you can get it to tell you a joke. You can brush up on your knowledge. You can ask for example of however many key points on a particular topic. One of the ones I love is where we read documents that are like 1,800 pages. It'll knock it down now. We can say, put that down into 5 pages briefing notes, and it does it like in seconds.
Wow.
It's just amazing. And where the kids are using it at school, where they're trying to block it. So I know Queensland's one of the states that they're going to do that in, but not all states they're doing it in. You can get it to outline an essay for you. So you can tell it what you've been studying and go, put together 600 words on that, and it'll knock it out. So this is where teachers are a little bit scared.
Yes.
You can write an email to someone. So in business, we all have those technical challenges where sometimes we want to be sympathetic to somebody who maybe hasn't paid us, or their payment's outstanding. So you can get an email and it can word it in a demanding form, a demanding type way that looks almost legal, or you can word it in a way that might be sympathetic to them going through something. You can ask it to name a business product. You can do a motivational quote. You can put up arguments to and from things for 2 different scenarios, and it'll argue those things out for you. It's like a little bit like a debating team. You can do those summaries. You can emojify your text, which can be sometimes fun if you're putting up social media posts. There's so much you can do. There's so much more. You can say to it, somebody the other day goes, oh, it'd be nearly good as saying, I've only got these things in cupboard, can I make a recipe out of it? Well, we all know there's apps for that, but you can tell it that as well.
Yeah.
And you can say, give me a recipe using only my slow cooker, here's my ingredients. So it'll get to know you. It's like Google and Alexa and like all those other things we talk about Siri. It gets to know you after a while, that it can recommend movies that you might be interested in, TV shows that you might like. So I always say use it as a tool. It's a lot of things you can do with it, and just use them as tools. Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about it like that. It's almost like Siri on steroids a little bit, but that it I guess where I've been talking to some fellow authors, and I've had to play with one of the apps myself. If, for example, you say to them, write a poem, and you say, write a poem about this, and they write that poem, who wrote that poem? Did you write that poem? Did they write that poem? Like, where do we start talking about who is the content creator? All those messy things. Can you claim that work as your own?
Yeah, so that's where IP lawyers are going to come in.
Yeah.
On the same token, most IP lawyers will tell you if something's changed by 10%, it becomes your ownership.
True.
And we also have copyright rules that anything a writer writes is copyright in Australia.
Yeah.
So if it asks you to do it in a particular theme, say Shakespeare, then it's giving you thou out are, you know, that probably just chucking that into something that's, most of this stuff will be already existing. So it's a culmination of, we have all those resources now. So years ago, for information, we went to an encyclopedia, we resource things off of that. Now we walk around with encyclopedias, dictionaries, music,
maps
in the palm of our hands, maps, it's in the palm of our hands. So this is like putting all those things together and putting in an output from that.
Because I've had one of my companies that I create content for send around an email the other day saying that they will not accept any content that has been created using one of these AI apps. How would they even know? Is there any way that they can tell that you've used an app, or is it just going to be on the content creator to be honest about these things?
Yeah, so that's going to be tricky. So at the moment, there are searches that can be used. So it's a little bit like if you're writing a thesis or you're writing a paper or something for universities, they have things that they can run through to see if it's original work or not. So they'll run some of those, I'd say, apps and devices over them, put them through their platforms that might have some of that, a little bit like virus detection. You know, virus detection's always, and it's about whatever coding they've told them. So if you're writing content and you were using AI, you could probably trick it, and that would be using anything that would be colloquially Australian. So you could probably trick one of those devices from that point of view.
So what if
it could be a bluff at the moment? I'm sort of
thinking.
I know. Everything's so sophisticated.
It is.
And
I'm wondering. So if it when I was trying to explain this to somebody the other day, it's not having original thought, is it? So basically it's actually creating copy, not content. So it's taking all of this information from all of its resources and it's answering a question in a format that you want, but it's not having original thought. Whereas when we are creating content, then it comes from all of our memories and our lived experiences and that kind of thing. But you're saying as we kind of use this AI more and as we get more comfortable with it and as it gets to know us, then it can potentially augment what we're writing instead of using it as something to replace what we're writing. Would that be right?
It's what you get out is what you feed in.
Okay.
So anybody who's like me and uses Siri for everything, I use it everywhere for everything. You know, in my car, I don't ever touch my phone. I'm asking it questions or whatever. And the amazing thing is when I have somebody in my car and I haven't talked to Siri for a while because I'm talking to the person in my car, all of a sudden Siri will ask me a knock-knock joke. So, and that blows people away and they're like, what did you do? And I said, no, it just knows. It has learned the algorithm of how often I talk to my phone. And if I'm not talking from my phone for a while, it's checking in on me. And it's something that happens with all those types of devices. If you talk to them enough, you'll notice something. It might even, Google does, after a while, because it's like, or it says, I'm listening.
Yes.
You might want to unplug it if it's listening.
Oh my gosh.
Because then if you ask a question, it might give you something around those conversations. So it's what the input is in. So that's why I was going to show you an example.
If you could, that would be great.
The more you put input in, the more you get out. So if I just share my screen and we can talk through some of these sort of types of things. So, okay, I'll just move us around a little bit. Don't mind me. And I'll just get rid of that down there. So this is where, so there's loads of different types of artificial intelligence apps, and they're not all writing ones. So the writing ones that we're seeing now are groups of AI that they've put together in one and they've called it a writing one. So that telling poems, telling jokes, outlining essays and that. There are lots of different apps and what's happened is some of the app developers have put these together in one to get people hooked on the one and then they keep using it. So for instance, I asked it, I asked for some bees buzzing, and these are the types of things that I got. And I was like, oh, I'm not really getting what I'm looking for. So then I said to it, and this is to get some imaging up around artificial intelligence. I asked it for bees buzzing around a robot. So it's working with its definition of a robot, and it's confused now, and it's saying, well, are you looking for a robot bee around a robot? Or what are you looking for? And I had to then keep telling it to get down to something more that I was looking for. And I said, no, I want lots of busy bees. And then it gave me busy sort of ones. And then it went back to that. So it kept giving me what it thought I wanted.
And where is it pulling these images from? So are these just like
so up the top here, DALL-E?
Yep.
You can get any sort of image. So I sort of said,
can you use those so there's no copyright on those images?
No, there aren't, because they're images that you've developed. So what it does is it'll cut and paste images from elsewhere. I'd just be careful, because it might cut and paste an image that's already out there. So we need to be careful of that. But if we bring them through things, and I'll show you Canva, because Canva's got some cool stuff. We bring it through there.
Canva's got some. I use Canva. I didn't know it had an AI.
So I love it's got AI in it as well. And Google is also integrating AI, because Google wants to stay ahead, and they don't want anybody to out Google them. So they've got two. So here's where I asked it in a Monet style, give me bees buzzing around. It's still confused. It still doesn't quite get what I'm looking for. I asked it in a Monet style, a Van Gogh style. So it's still not exactly giving me what I want.
Right.
And then what happens with all this AI, it gives you a certain amount of images or a certain amount of writing that goes, sorry, your turn's up now, even if you've paid for it. So they move you on. So Canva, I love Canva.
I love Canva. I use Canva every day.
Yeah.
This is not an ad for Canva, by the way.
No, it's definitely not. Definitely not. But I do love the fact that they're an Australian company, and they give so much back to the community for free. So I do love that about them. So I'll always give them a shout out, because I love them. But if you use it already, this is what you can do. So you can go in and you can ask for a document. Here we go. Sell grants to clients in 5 points. Self-funding grants, because you've got to remember it mightn't know what I'm doing. And then you just hit return. So thinking about it, should just work from there. I hit it twice. Hit it twice. Sorry. And then it'll go into thinking. So it's not quite as fast as the AI writing ones that we've seen. So it gives me a little bit of a blurb. So from that blurb, when you say about your own IP, you might want to change it up a little bit. We're pleased to offer our services to help you fund grants to your clients, to us as clients. You might want to change that wording up. So the minute you change that wording up, it's not really Canva's wording or AI wording, it becomes your wording.
And there is that legislation around the 10%, isn't there? So technically, anything that you see that has that copyright on it, there is still a provision that if you change it by that certain percent and add your own to it, then legally it becomes your content.
And also, when we talk about algorithms and things, I've been hiding hashtags for some time in photographs. So because it directs an algorithm to people who I want to direct it to. Or it directs back, when you Google The Boring Writer, you can find me easily. And the ways you can find me easily is because I've built those things into certain things. So if I was to be you know, like if I decided, oh, well, I like that wording, and I cut and pasted that wording straight from here,
Yep.
or with Canva, you know, you can hit share and it'll share it up to wherever. So if I was to share it up to my Facebook page or my Instagram page, immediately the coding and that's built in the background will also feed back to Canva and say your wording's been used or your imagery's been used or whatever. So that's where if there was any systems around being able to know certain and check, that's what we found out. But if you're the sort of person who retyped all of that and put some of your own wording in, this morning, yesterday, somebody did a poem yesterday around First Nations. You know, give us a poem. They did it up on AI. Give us a poem around First Nations that's sympathetic to Australia Day. And it gave a poem. And the interesting thing was I went in and I thought, okay, let's try that a couple of different ways. So I asked it for a poem around those parameters, and I asked it in different ways. So I said, you know, give me a poem around that. I think they asked for it in Banjo Patterson. I asked for it as Dorothea McKellar was one of them. The wording was essentially the same. So it was like when I say Shakespeare, if you asked for it in a Shakespearean style, it was saying thee, thou, out, art, you know, that sort of wording. The wording that I got with Dorothea McKellar sounded like a sunburnt country, but with different wording.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's why you've got to feed it more information. So, you know, if you fed it with the if you fed it and said it in a Banjo Patterson and Dorothea McKellar and something else style, then you probably can get something a lot more original than the fear of it is everybody else will get the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. So what would your top tips be then for using AI? So how can we use it to our advantage instead of being scared and worried that it is going to take our place as content creators? Because obviously, like you were saying, there are going to be some elements where maybe you don't need your VA to write an email anymore, or maybe you don't need a graphic artist. So there are going to be some elements where creative people are going to be feeling like they are losing a bit of business because of this new technology. But how can we have that positive spin mindset that you have and think of using it in a way that's actually going to put us in a better position as creatives?
Yeah. So from a creative point of view, if you're doing artistic stuff, you're never going to go out of business if you've got original work. So anybody who's doing original work is never going to go out of business. But if they wanted to, if they're sitting there at their easel, I know when I paint, you sit there and you sort of think, what am I going to paint? You could call up and you could ask it do something in a style that you want to paint, and then you put your own finishes on it. So you design it and you go, oh, I never thought about bees as robots. See, when I asked it that question, I never thought of those bees as robots. I never thought of doing that. So you could do, and you could go, oh, that's a bit of a different spin on that. I could bring that into my original artwork. From a writer's point of view, you could improve that content. You know how we're always, I mean, I don't know about you, I go to the thesaurus if I'm looking for a word. I don't want that word, but I want something that's describing the same sort of thing. I'll go to the thesaurus and you know, so that's a tool we're using now. So use it like that as a tool. If you're writing something or you've got writer's block, put in what you've got so far and ask it to give you briefing information on that. And it might bring up some words or prompt you as a creative to unblock where you're blocked. You just get, you know, you get stuck around certain things. I'd use it as that sort of
it's a tool. You know,
if you're writing about something that's of a particular knowledge or history, you could brush up quickly on that. And like I said, with Google wanting to integrate it now as well into what they've got, I see Google getting a lot better in what it delivers. So this is like, if you treat it like those things that we've had to teach, like, you know, and Wikipedia is this perfect example. You might go to Wikipedia for information, but you know it's not ever going to be 100% true.
Yeah.
Because whoever's wrote it has made it about their truth.
Yeah.
You know, I sometimes, creatives who have been stuck with me about describing certain things, I've got them to put it into a poem format or a joke. And then see if we can spin something out of that. So you can use it in all these different plots to spin out an outcome that you're looking for that's blocking you. You know, why? And that's the thing with writer's block, it's really hard. Why are we getting writer's block? It's not that we don't know what we want to write, it's how we're putting it down. And these tools, use it as a tool. It's just
a writing tool. Yeah.
It's a writing tool, an additional writing tool. You know, get it to pull something as a motivational quote out of what you've been saying already. If you want to give, if you're writing a book and you want that, you know, like I always call it the Pixar effect.
Yeah.
If you want that subliminal message to an adult, or you want something really motivational in it, ask it to look for something in what you've already written and make that motivational.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it comes down to the user, doesn't it? Just like everything, it comes down to the user and how we use it. Robyn, I think this discussion's probably going to stir up a lot of questions for people. So what I'd like to do now, if you don't mind, is kind of cut our conversation in half and really open to comments and questions now. So if you would like to ask Robyn or myself a question, if you can put that in the comments, Robyn and I will go through those, and then we will actually come back for a part 2, because I think there's so many things that we've brought up today that are really going to be possibly triggering for some people, or possibly some people have got their own opinion, and I'd love to get everyone involved. So if you have got something that either you want to say or that you want to ask, please pop it in the comments below, and Robyn and I will have a look at those, and we will come back again and really address all of these concerns, because I think it's really important that we are addressing the concerns of creatives in this. Just like Robyn said, that it's something that until you know about it, and you know how to use it, then it can be scary and it can feel quite confronting. But just like all of those things that we've learned to use as creatives over the last 10 years, this is something that we really do need to know about. So thank you so much, Robyn. I really appreciate you taking the time and starting this conversation with us today. And I look forward to getting back together and answering everyone's questions.